It's not a secret that I love turn-based combat. I've already gone into what makes this such a great combat basis and why I love it. More recently, first-person RPGs and the style of games like Wizardry have all blended into each other. The only difference is how they go about telling its storyline. Paper Sorcerer feels retro but tries to improve on what games like The Bard's Tale or Wizardry gave us, yet stands out by having the art style of a movie like Sin City or a game like Mad World. The development of the game is really impressive. It was developed by one guy named Jesse Gallagher, published by Ultra Runaway Games and released in 2013. This is his first and only game according to a Steam search. If this is true, then this is quite impressive to not only make a game that doesn't use the RPG Maker engine, that isn't really a short platforming game or has as much depth as a Flash game, but a 3D RPG with good art is alone impressive enough. Where we stand, I applaud this effort in that I can barely get my basic video reviews done in a timely manner. I could not imagine how much work it would take to put into a game like this by yourself. The storyline was an afterthought in my opinion. I think what happened was that either Jesse Gallagher realized that writing a full-fledged plot was going to take away time from working on the game's mechanics that he didn't want, or he wanted to have a plot that feels like it was written back in the late 80s to early 90s. Either way, the plot really amounts to this. You are a gifted sorcerer who can summon companions to aid him in a quest to defeat the evil in this tower. Unfortunately, you don't remember anything, and you will have encounters that give you pieces of your memory back and unlocks new abilities. Like I said, it's nothing you haven't seen 100 times before. The graphics are unique. Like I said before, it has a very similar look to a game like Mad World or a movie like Sin City. 99% of the game is in black and white, with a few spots of red or green here and there. That said, the art looks good. Its monster designs are very much inspired by classic PC RPGs like The Bard's Tale, Ultima, and the early editions of Dungeons & Dragons. With that said, this is a genre that this kind of art doesn't really work well for RPGs. A problem that Mad World's art had was that it could give people headaches and your eyes had to adjust so you could start and stop playing. Thus, it's more of a game you should play in 30-minute to hour-long sessions rather than 3 to 5 hours. RPGs, on the other hand, are more or less marathon games. Unless it's a hack-and-slash game or a game like Final Fight with RPG elements, these games can last 30 or more hours and have you beat up the same enemies on a regular basis. In my case, this led to me getting headaches, and it wouldn't blow my mind that if people went colorblind playing it. I could mention things like monsters being recycled, but considering it was made by one guy, I can easily let it slide. The audio isn't exactly good. The music feels out of place and doesn't fit the mold of a dungeon crawling RPG or one that plays like it came out of the 1990s. It sounds like the kind of music you hear in a 1980s or a dubstep dance club. It's got a lot of electronic elements, a lot of bass to it, and it would fit better in a really colorful platforming game. I know it's supposed to sound retro, but it doesn't feel retro to me. Other than that, the sound effects are good, and from a quality standpoint, it's good. It's just sounds out of place in general. The gameplay is fundamentally a really solid RPG. It's not going to set the world on fire, but again, considering it was developed by one guy, it's a great effort. The fundamental gameplay is like any other game like Wizardry, The Bard's Tale, and so on. You get a party of 4 characters with more unlocked along the way. You can switch them out at any time, and treat some more as companions you can summon rather than party members. They vary from mages to warriors and everything in between from a Dungeons & Dragons world. How the game works is that in the main dungeons, you run around these levels with different things you can interact with. These include chests and doors to open, items you can pick up in specific areas where you can see elements that you can interact with. So the things you can interact with can be puzzles to solve so you can unlock items, or they lead to you finding a hidden door. Depending on what difficulty you play on, these puzzles can slap you on the wrist like an idiot test, yet on higher difficulties, they can flat out kill your character. So if you play on the 1980 difficulty mode, don't do anything that would kill you in real life. Once you enter a fight, it plays out more like a modernized version of Wizardry. You get into a turn-based tactical game of Rock'em Sock'em Robots till one group of characters fall. One of the things that makes it a little bit different is in the armor system. Each character now has not only a hit point meter, but a defense meter. The defense meter blocks some of the damage you normally take from most attacks. The only drawback is that most spells, effects like poison get around it, and once it goes, you start to take a lot more damage. This adds more strategy in the fights by becoming a balancing act. You could focus the damage done by enemies to one of your characters, and yet magic will at times destroy him. Or you could try to go in with a bunch of moves that recover defense, but risking taking a lot of damage over a longer period of time because of how spells work. Speaking of spells, the magic spells is yet another place Jesse Gallagher shows he's pretty good at designing games. You know how I said that this plays a lot like a modernized version of the old Wizardry games? Well, the early Wizardry games used one of the rule sets from the early editions of Dungeons & Dragons. To put that into perspective, those Dungeons & Dragons books had spells that were few and far between. They were powerful and needed to be used sparingly because it was more of a tool set to tell stories in that world, with combat being a last option in a situation. He tweaked the engine so that while spells should be used sparingly, it didn't feel like you needed to carry a ton of healing potions and a bunch of magically defensive tank. The way he did it is that he changed how the mana system works and added elements to consider before casting. The way the game's mana system works is that every turn you recover a certain amount of energy depending on what class the character is. Each spell or skill now has an energy cost and a number of turns you have to wait till you can use it again. It makes it a fair bit more strategic, and now that you gotta consider how long you have to wait before you could cast again, rather than spamming spells till the baddies drop dead. Moving on, after completing the first couple of floors, you get introduced to the Sanctuary, where you'll be returning to a lot. This is where you can go to the shop to sell off your loot, upgrade your armor, upgrade your character stats, get healed, go into catacombs so you can unlock new characters, or go back previously visited floors to grab things you might have missed out on. Keep in mind that both armor and stat upgrades cost money, so spend it wisely. Another integral part of the game is the catacombs. How the catacombs work is that there's this guy who tells you that there are souls trapped in there that he wants. If you find them, he will return the favor by bringing them back to life, and you get to keep them as companions. They do level up with everyone else and start at decent level, so don't worry about their experience levels when you get. The only thing you got to worry about is that this place has random encounters, so be prepared. I appreciate this because it rewards you with a new character down the line. The monsters also level up with you, so massive grinding sessions to unlock level 100 characters isn't advised. On a side note, the main dungeon's fights are predetermined. There are big puffs of black smoke, and it lets you know where a fight is. Once you beat the encounter, this appears from the main dungeon forever. With all that said, I've come to a crossroads. On one hand, this is a fundamentally solid game. Fans who love games like The Bard's Tale will love the strategy behind the fights and has enough features for most people at any skill level to enjoy. On the other hand, the graphics are the biggest thing that keep it from being great. You need to sink a lot of time to go far in the game, and because of how the graphics can cause headaches for some people, it should be played in short sessions rather than the sessions you would a game like Darkest Dungeon or Final Fantasy. So I'm somewhat disappointed, like when your team gets eliminated from the playoffs on the last play. It's a good effort, but if they made one decision differently, it would be a lot better outcome. Overall, Paper Sorcerer is a great independently developed game. Pull something like this off by yourself is a great achievement, even if the game sucks. Yeah, it's got good game design elements to it. You're a fan of games like The Bard's Tale, Wizardry, or you want to see how good of a game one guy can make, then definitely give it a go. Just keep in mind you might want to play smaller sessions than you would other games from this genre. If it didn't have the problem with the graphics, I would easily give it an 8 out of 10. As it stands, I can't give it any more than a 7.